Model off approved.
What's up, you guys? Simon here at Vida. Today we're going to go through the tutorial for installation of our Ambient kit that connects directly to the vehicle. Without further ado, we're going to go through what each of the items connects to and how to perform the installation. Let's do it. Okay, so when you get your kit and you open up the box, you're going to have all these in package. And we're going to go over what each of these items are for, and then during the installation, we'll show you exactly where they all go. So the first package you'll find is there's a single box. This is the main control module. In this single box, there should be the set of cable. This is the main module cable. Is pretty self-explanatory. This end connects to here, and then this end is then connected to an extender, which will allow us to route and connect the front dash area. There's also 3 separate wires that we need to worry about. There's this brown wire, which is the ground. Kind of see the ground. You got the green wire, and then you have the red wire. The red wire is going to be tapped into the tapper fuse that we included with the 20 amp. So you're going to plug in this, and this goes in the switch fuse underneath the driver's side. The red then goes spliced into the driver side. There is a connector that controls the ambient light switch. This is what this will be doing. So with this, and you're going to have to play around slightly, but with this, you should be able to connect to the extender. So on one end, you're going to have an extender, and there's only one way you can connect this. The extender is this one cable. There's no other cable like this, where you plug in here, your female or male, and then extends out. And then so all these others are basically all the accessory items connected. So for the front, you're really just targeting a few items. It's going to be for the dash. And the dash, if you choose to do the dash, are these white rod that goes underneath your dash area. So these rods are both same sizes, and you'll see that when they plug in on the end, it's pretty self-explanatory. It all fits. These are 4 pins. They're universal. And because of the way they design this, you can actually cut to length, but make sure you measure before you cut for the dash only. The other ones, we're not going to be cutting too much, if any at all. So this is for the dash because you're going to be tucking this underneath the dash area. This entire thing will be lit, and we'll show you what that looks like when it's all said and done. You're also going to have 4 separate modules. These modules will be going inside and behind each door. This is how it allows the system to communicate with one another. There is no specific ones for left, right, or left. That's not the case. These are universal, so it doesn't matter which way you go as long as you put one in every single door. So connected with this is this wire down here, and you're going to have 4 of these wires. So back to it, there's these 4 pins. These are 8 pins, I'm sorry, 4 on top, 4 on bottom. This connects to the harness. As such, again, it's very self-explanatory. So every single one of these cable will connect to one of these connectors. And there's 4 of them here. There's 4 cables here. Similarly, you'll have 3 separate connectors for your doors. For example, you may, and I'm not going to install all of it, but you have these for your speakers, and then you have your door strip where they all connect to these ends. So they're all universal on that end. And they go on every single door. Now, the front door has a slight tweak to it. And what I mean by that is the front door is going to be relying on a different methodology of getting power. So you'll notice that there are these connectors here for power. Now, the rear door, you're going to get your power separately from the front door. We'll talk about the rear door shortly. But for the front door, you actually plug and play in these harness. There are connectors that are mirroring these, that these are splitting into Y. So you take the connectors from the car off, You put the connector from the car in here, and you plug this back into the car. This wire harness allows you to then plug in this power. There's two ways of getting power. For the front, we're going to be getting power like this. Just like that. Now, for the rear, your power is also conveniently there's a separate wire that's black and red that we can tap. So these are optionals, how you're getting your power. So the front, you're going to use those cables. The rear, we're going to show you how to get the power and ground behind the speaker. So that's how we do this part. We also have these speaker lights that I just talked about. They go inside your speakers. I'm not a big fan of them. Not that they look bad, it's just personal preference. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to have these white circular ones. These are the ones for the dash. They can be cut on the end, but make sure you know how far to cut, because once you cut, there's no going back. You also have these 4 separate ones here. They actually go underneath the car door handle area. So in the interior, there's already lights, but these are infinitely brighter. We did not install it on our car, but if you choose to, you can. You also have these, which goes into your door seam. They're all the same length. The kit also included some of these. I did not include them. I think there were some revisions to the vehicle. So these are optional, just like this right here. Again, these are optional pieces. I decided not to install them. I wasn't a big fan of it. The kit was designed really mainly for the door, the dash, and the speaker. So those are the core spots. Let's go ahead and take a look at how to open the door and where each of these components go. All right, so now we're underneath the driver's side panel fuse box, where we're going to go ahead and highlight where we're going to connect the power source. So we included a tap of fuse that goes into your switch fuse right here. I want to say it is fuse number 15 is the one that we're using right here. So make sure we pull out the fuse, insert it to the tap of fuse, and then put the tap fuse in there. And then it should be connected to power. Is the one that's your power source. For the ground, we're going to be using this ground source right here. So this ground has been proven very reliable, and this is the ground what we're using for this particular installation. So we have the ground, and then we have the power. Again, it is fuse number 15. 15 and 16, I believe, are the micro fuse 3. And these are switch fuses, and that's why we chose to use these in here. You see it's a 3-prong. I don't know if you can see, but there we go. And then all the wiring are done by going underneath and through. So you can pop this panel off here. You can see we actually have a hack. We replaced ours with something else, but you can pop this panel off. You just take it off from the bottom, pull out, and it'll come off. And we route all the wires underneath and through here. And this is where we're going to show in a second on the driver's side where the green wire will be connecting to. So we're on the driver's side. I'm going to show you how to connect to the ambient light control box, which is just a single light. Make sure you get plenty of space. You'll notice that we've already released this light right here, but when it's not released, it's actually tucked in. So you just need to pinch and pull down. And when you do so, you'll notice that this light has 3 wires. These 3 wires, there's one in the middle that you're really kind of focusing on. Actually, I'm not even sure it was the middle. Yeah, it is the middle. It's the, make sure I get the color. It's that yellow. It's the only yellow color light wire. So there's a yellow and blue. So again, you can see it. So yellow and blue is the one that we're connecting to. And that's where we are splicing our wires. Don't worry about my connector. That was just an extension. That's actually, there's another wire that's spliced into it. So we're going to go ahead and take a picture of this splice. See how I'm splicing into it? All right. So once you have that connected, we routed that back underneath, and all the wires are going through back this area. Made it nice and neat so you can't see much, if anything. And that's how that particular part is routed. All right, so for removing the front door, a couple of things you need to know. There is a bolt hidden behind here. That's one. There are two on the very bottom, right here. 2, 3, and there is a hidden one behind a cover here, this little cover that you need to pop off. There's 2 other ones. So once you remove 1, 2, the 2 underneath and that, your door will now be able to be removed, and I'll show you how that's done. All right, so check this out. So this part here, the new one is going to be perfectly lengthwise, and it tucks in into this little seam here, like this. Ours is already here. You can see it. If yours is a little long, you can cut a little bit off the top on the other end. We would recommend that you put the wiring on this side. Okay, so that's one thing. Once you remove all your 7mm bolts, 1 here, 2 inside here, and 2 underneath, go ahead and grab a trim removal kit. Just grab a little seam. And then once you get a little seam, try to get your fingers in there. Again, try to get that little finger in there and start pulling outward. So try to get, and then once you work your way to the bottom and pull, and then work your way up the top on the slide. And then eventually all these will come out. Do not pull the door out immediately, because there are 2 connectors in there that you need to disconnect. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can showcase those connectors much more clearly. So there's a connector at the bottom, and then there's the connector for the door. So to remove this, you have to lift up. So all you do is you lift up like this, and then it will finesse out. But again, do not disconnect. I'm going to go ahead and bring the camera over and show the next view. Once you have this opened, you have a switch at the very bottom here that needs to be removed. I will do that first. And then there's a hinge that also needs to be removed right there. So how do you remove this hinge? Well, it takes a little bit of trick and finesse. I'm going to see if I can go ahead and show you how that's done. So that's the hinge here. And what you'll see is you notice that, see if I can get the lighting in here to stay. If not, we can just have it facing down, hanging on the door. I think we can do that. So this is the hinge. I'm going to move it over a little bit more. So this part right here is clipped in. What you have to do is you have to get a tool to pinch in here, or depending on the angle, so that you can pull it out. So what you're going to, I'm going to try to see if I can capture it. You'll see how on the very top, so those are depending on the angle and how it's twisted, those are the pinch tabs. You need to push that tab so it releases from that to the right of this video. So what does I mean by that? If you are able to do it correctly and pinch, it should come off like this. See this little tab? Again, this little tab here. You have to be able to pinch. You pushes it in. You push it in, and then you have to pull it out to the right. Once you pull it out to the right, then you lift it up and over, and then remove this part, so you can just go ahead and grab. So this part is hooked in on the bottom. So there's a little entryway right at the very bottom here. You want to do is just unhook it. So again, I'm going to show you to you as much as I can. So this part is slide in, and that this pops off. And we'll try to get a picture of this. And then when you're putting it back in, you're basically going to reverse the step. You're going to slide this in first, like this. Going to get it into the hook. Make sure you get all the way into the hook. And then you're going to pull, because you want to enter from this side back in there. Okay, make sure you get all this in. But we're not going to do that right now because we're taking it out. Going to make sure we do that. So this is out. And I'm going to show you when the door is removed completely. The door is removed completely. So I'm going to show you the connector that we had to remove from the bottom. So this is the part you have to remove from the bottom. Okay. And then this is the hinge. This hinge controls the opening and closing of the door. So it's really important that you unlatch it. And this is that little push area that I was talking about, because that's what hooks it in. I'm trying to get a couple pictures of these. I'm going to walk over to the door now and take a look at where those were mounted. So remember, at the bottom, this is the bottom of the door. This is that one connector. And then, I'm facing the wrong direction. I'm going to turn back around. Actually, it is the right direction, because the door, this is our connector, and this is our hinge area right here. So our hinge area, if you see the bottom part, it's a little bit right here. The little opening, and that's where the bottom of the hinge hook goes. And then you slide it into this little opening here. So that's the door completely removed. And for the front, so what the version 1 and version 2 does differently is that on version 1, the one that I have, and the version 2, the one that we're selling, is that you don't no longer have to tap into this, because our version, the next one, you just require to remove this here, and I'm going to go ahead and back out. Go ahead and take a picture of this. Put it back on our screen. Right here. You see this connector here? This allows us to plug this unit in here and plug this out here. So if we do it correctly, this is your connector, and you're not going to have, obviously, our posi taps, because we use it for power on the first one. You're going to plug this in like this, right? This way. Snaps in play, and it goes in here. So just doing it for concept, but this will then show you the connection. And what happened is, how does this work, right? So what we did was we basically spliced it already for you. And this is how you get your power. So this goes in here, again, like this. And goes in. So, and then you plug it in here. It goes like this, right? So, like so. Okay. And that's the same for both driver and passenger side, for the front side. And then once you get this in, there is a connector here. This is the power that guides to these cables here. There's 4 of these. And there's 2 ways of getting power, I think I mentioned earlier. There is the tap, which is spliced. And there's 2 wires here that are currently have no connectors at the end. You see it? Or there is also this part where it's already connected using the power. You just disconnect this part, disconnect it, and then grab the power as such. And this, now you have power. Then this particular one will connect to the unit, one of 4 modules. So we're gonna find the only connector with 8 pins. There's only one connector with 8 pins, right? And then remember, here's the power. And we'll take the only connector with the 8 pins, pop it in there, as such. So, a couple of things what you can do. I actually open this all up, and that's something that I would recommend, but it's how you want to mount it is up to you. I open this speaker out and put all my stuff to the back side and tape it down so there's no rattling. And then I routed the wires, as you can see, up and through this little tape area. So I basically removed the tape and punctured the hole and then just extended the wire out. So it's one of these wires out here, right? One of these wires. They all can work. They're all universal. And what you do is that once you have it out, this is the connector for our light strip. You basically have it at the edge of the door, and then you can connect like this. So connect it, and you know what? I'm gonna get another one. I don't get enough light. So just connect it like this. Sorry, I was out of frame. So it's any of these 4. So you just connect it. So that's one. And if you are also doing the lighting for instance, if you want to put one of these right here, which we did not do, but you can. So the LED strips on this side. So what you do is you remove the speaker and you essentially, you don't have to remove it, I apologize. You basically are just trapping this piece here and making sure that you are able to grab. The other way of doing this as well is that you can probably secure this directly onto the door panel instead of linking it here. While it is possible, and I'm not saying that it's not, because the intention is that, but this is not going to grab. Instead, what I would do, and I'm going to move it over here and show it to you from this. So you know the LED is going to propagate really on both sides. Either way you want to do it. You could, in short, have it mounted in the inside here as such. And it sits in that particular format. I believe it also goes in like this as well. So it may slide around, but it will cuff. Now, I would certainly recommend taping it down. You're not going to see it, but that's what I would recommend. Let me get you a closer look. The only challenge with this is making sure it's secure so it doesn't rattle. And then you can certainly close this back up when you need to. Basically using gravity, because otherwise you're basically latching this. And ultimately this is going to produce that lighting effect that goes around. I'm not a big fan of this. But yeah, you can go ahead and figure out which best methodology. So that's how you install this particular light. So let me go ahead and grab a picture. Again, you can just slide this in here. While it does move around, it's going to shake. I would, again, secure it with some tape. Align it accordingly, however you think you best fit. And then this cord will connect to one of the cords that are as part of this unit here. They're all the 4 connectors. Okay? And then finally, What you're gonna see as well is there is this light down here. Here, there's this light. There's a light down here, right here. If you want to, you can take this off and pop in these lights here. They actually go in here. They slide in. This comes out. This comes out. And this goes in here. So you'll see that there is a light switch that's connected. We did not install it on ours. Didn't see really value in this particular kit for that. But if you want it much brighter, certainly go ahead and do it. But yeah, it's essentially using the same universal. So those are the 4 prongs. So again, you would have to remove that screw, that, and then this will come off. This is the handle that underneath our handle that is part of the ambient light for the front. So this is that shorter bar that could be mounted down there. And this is part of the kit. And then mostly that you just reassemble that back. And that represents the front part. As far as sliding in the light, this is the tarp. So I find it a lot easier to slide it in when it's out and just kind of bending this back and then poking it, just keep pushing it through. Push, 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 push. And then what I did here, and you'll see it, is I was able to grab my cabling. So it's wrapped in and it has an opening right here. So you'll see that there's a little bit of exposed wire and I have it so it's routed up in between this little channel at the door seam. Let me go ahead and try to see if I can grab. And in this little door channel seam, I was able to tuck the wire in. Try to see if you can show it. So you see the wiring there. And then route it out here so when I have to reconnect it, it's a lot easier to disconnect and reconnect. And that represents the totality of the front, both driver and passenger. And now we're going to put the driver's side back. But just basically going back to the same steps before. All right, so now we're going to put everything back. Making sure you have all the stuff wired. And here's the bottom side I'm going to show you for the ambient light kit. Where this is the LED that I was talking about that you can replace with ours. Much brighter. But if you don't want to, just fine, it works. Regardless. And the majority of the lighting is really from the door. So for me putting back, I do the bottom one first. That's the one that's hardest to reach. Okay, hear that click. And then I do the mechanism here. This little pulley system. So, as I mentioned earlier, I slide it in first into that little hole. And then what I do is I pull it out. So what I mean by this, you're going to have it extended so it's the entirety of the piece. And I know you can't see it. It's on the outside. So when it has to slide back in, let me go ahead and show the picture in the video. Let's see if I can show it. I have to slide it back in so that this inseam is back to where it was. Notice how it's locked back in place. You have to make sure it slides in straight. And right now it's actually not even straight. I need to do a much better job. Okay? So I'm going to go back and work on that right now. Because this is important. This is how doors unlock and lock. So if it doesn't catch it, it's going to be problematic. So I have it pretty good. Go take my phone back, and next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect my light switch that I have a little bit more of a give back into up top here, and that's how I route mine. And then in terms of putting everything back together, you always start with the top. So I'm going to move this back a little bit so you can see how the installation will go. So you always start with the top. You try to clip on the top first. And once you clip onto the top, we will align so you're basically grabbing that little top part, and you'll see it. You'll know exactly what I mean when you're, and once you have it, you push down so it sets in place. This is basically it. Now, obviously, you got to check whether or not the door is working, but then you slowly just find the clips, align it back, pop everything back in. Okay? And then put your screws back in there. One thing I can check right now off the bat is making sure the lock works. So basically hit the button, comes out, everything's unlocking great. So that's key. And then put all your screws back, and that's how you do the front door. Okay, so removing the rear door is the same exact methodology. And you're gonna find that I'm gonna be repeating the same steps. So I'm just gonna knock this out, remove some of the door, and just show you how similar, if not identical, it is. So you take the same piece off using a 7mm. Take stuff off, and then there's a interior trim piece right here, just like the front. Some parts are easier to come off than others. This is right here. So we're gonna get a plastic trim removal kit. Just try to grab the inseam so that it'll expose us to the bolts. There they are. We're gonna pop these out. And it's coming out shortly, and out. And then we're gonna go on the bottom just like we did in the front. There's two down here. I kid you not when I say it's identical. It is literally the same thing. So these are out. So same thing as before. We're going to go ahead and lift after we get that little inseam here. Pull out. Get the clip. Remember, we don't want to pull it all the way out because there's a connector in the bottom. I feel like all the connectors are out. So I'm going to lift. Lift and lift. And once this is lifted, I'm going to take my connectors. I'm going to remove the bottom connector. And I know you can't see it, but you'll see it after. I hopefully can remove this quickly, just like the front. But every connector is a little different. And so I got my pulley out. And then my last piece is down here. Okay, so everything's out. So very similar, if not identical. I have this coming down here. This is the same pulley system that you saw but from the front, which is right here, lock in place. And so I think this covers the door. So one thing that's different is getting power. Getting power for the front and the bottom are going to be a little bit different. And then what's also going to be different is how we're going to mount this bottom light at the door. So unlike the front, the back doesn't have that little bottom light hinge right here. So it's like right down here. In fact, let's say it's like there's a little area down here that would be tough to grab. So I'm not even quite sure, honestly, how we're gonna get down here. There's a little hook down here. You could probably take these off here and explore. I do not intend to get down there because again, I'm just relying on the door. But there is looks like there's some availability right underneath here for that one strip. We'll put the door aside for now. I'm going to showcase exactly how we're going to get the power. So power in the back is a little bit different. We don't have that cable conveniently, unfortunately. So to get power, we have to remove the speaker. So unplug. Let me take off some tape. Unplug the speaker plug here first, okay? And then you're going to need a tool to remove the speaker. And that tool is like a star tool, a torque tool, a pretty big torque tool. Let me see what it is, and then I'll tell you the number. Let's see, it's always an adventure looking for the torque tool. Because you think it's too big, not big enough, too big, not big enough, so forth. So it looks like I found it. It is a T20 torque tool. We're gonna go ahead and remove our lone tool here. We're gonna remove the speaker. The reason why we're removing the speaker is because that's where power is gonna be, behind the speaker. And then I believe there's 3 total screws with the T20. So once you have all these screws out, speaker comes out pretty easily. Granted, as you remove the connector. So there's a little plug that's really kind of what's also aligning it. Take it off. That little plug's right here. Comes out pretty easily. And then let's get you a closer look at how some of the cabling is routed. All right, let's come take a look at the cabling routing. So we're gonna go so the cabling routing here, so you have all these boxes. This is where I would recommend putting the box as well. And I just basically zip tied it. Now, there's this existing cable back here, right here. It's gonna be clipped to this. You're gonna have to open it up because you're gonna splice into, see if you can see it. I can show it to you. There's a wire in here. And I'll tell you if you can't see it. I'm blocking that, I can tell. It's a purple, you know what, let's see if I can back it out. Just because it's really hard to see at the moment. I can understand why. Go ahead and make sure I show it clearly, and I can tell you as well. So we open this up. You're gonna open these wires up, and the cabling color it's a purple wire. Let me put this on my neck. Oh, there it is. I don't know if you can see it better here. So purple and red is the power. You see how I am tapping it. And you know what? I may have given some of you guys the wrong size posi taps. I apologize. It's a bigger wire. Unfortunately, I forgot that was a bigger wire, and I gave you only 22 gauge, so you're gonna have to get a bigger posi tap. So there's that. And then the black, which is your ground. Try to see if I found my ground in here. It's on the other side. I'm gonna rotate this over. So here's a better view. By lifting it, you can probably see the better view of the purple and red. Okay, and then the ground. Try to pull the ground. The ground is this black wire in the back. Let's see if I can move my camera around a little bit better. The ground is this black and white in the back. So it's black and white. So it's black and white there. See that black and white is the ground. So with this is how you plug in. And I think, again, I gave you all smaller ones than I should have. I should have given you the larger posi tap. My apologies for the ones who bought the kit already. Now that I know, I will be updating that. I've always thought it was only a different style. So nonetheless, there you go. So assuming you run your wires the same way as the front, reassembling is, again, just retracing your steps, right? Make sure you connect your speaker wire back, plug it back in, get your screws back in there, which I have a line, and then just do not over torque these. Very important, you just go nice and slow. Right, there you go. Lastly, here. And then plug our door back in there. I do the bottom first because that's usually the hardest part to see. Connect that. It's funny because this is the last part I do when I'm taking it off, but when I'm putting it back on, this first thing I do. Second thing I do is I do the latch. The latch is, I wish I can show it to you with different headgear, but make sure you slide anything and pull, and then insert. Then once you have those things completed, the last element is plugging back in. Or for you, might be the very first time plugging, and you probably test, make sure the lighting works as well. And then all these things are done. You mount by align the top part first. So once you get the top part aligned, push down, and similarly, go ahead and pop back in. And then reinstall, in this instance, the tools that locks in back in place. So I have both my screws already in there. Don't overly lock, overly tighten. It's probably not the best idea. I have these smaller ones out here. And then the two down here. And this last one down here. Those are now all locked in place. Put this tab back in. And then obviously your clip for the internal that hides the bolts. Test it out, make sure the door is working. And that completes that. And I'll probably do some couple more follow-ups, but that really kind of concludes the video. We'll show you it in action shortly. All right, so for those who asked, this is what it looks like when the light is not turned on. You can see the white part. That's where the LED strip is. And similarly, when you go to the back, that's where the LED strip is. I would tell you that if you didn't know that it was there, you probably wouldn't know that it was there at all. But to each his own. Now, when I turn on the vehicle, naturally, these lights are turned off because I have them set off. But it does turn back on immediately. It does not turn on the same time as the ambient. It does take a little bit of time for it to trigger. I did not have these lights turned off initially. That's why they turned on. But we're going to go to our main screen. We'll go to our general button. Apologize for all the fingerprints. But to turn it off, all you have to do is just scroll down and it goes off. Now, just one thing of note, on our new kit, we're installing the light underneath here instead. So it matches up with and aligns with the door. So version 2 is going to go right underneath this. And it's going to go all the way across. And then similarly, we turn it back on. Get the red, as you can see, also in the rear. And then we can go green, or I'm sorry, blue, purple. See, I think we got, this is more of a whitish blue. We got orange, more of here's the other colors. And if I want to turn it off, I just scroll down, turn it off. And then lastly, go back to the red that we're rocking. You can dim it as well. So you can see how it's a little lighter. Not as bright, and it gets much brighter. And that concludes the install video and the tutorial. Can't wait for you guys to install this on your vehicle. Hit us up on YouTube or on our Facebook page if you have any questions. Enjoy.